This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, we'll start with the agenda that's in front of you. There's no one speaking, requesting to address the board this evening. So we'll start with the village board meetings of the last village board meeting on December 7th. I would ask if there's no corrections or omissions for a motion accepting the minutes as presented by our clerk.
So moved.
Second.
Art seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Minutes are accepted. The next item of business we have is, and this is in connection with the Main Street reconstruction work that will commence in the spring. You have in your packet a copy of a notice to proceed, and I would like authorization on the part of the board for the village to authorize the mayor to execute this document so that we can proceed with the project that's at hand with Kubricki Construction Corporation. And basically the letter, Art?
No.
Question? The letter reads, you're hereby notified to commence work in accordance with the agreement dated. We don't have a date on it yet, but I believe it's November 16, 2020. The work on this project is to be completed by November 2023. Prior to commencing construction work in the spring of 2021, you are required to schedule a pre-construction meeting no later than February 16, 2021 in the village of Lake Placid. This meeting may be scheduled by contacting the village engineer, Ivan Zadral, professional engineering, and the numbers provided for that.
Excuse me, Craig. Craig, that date's been moved back a week. I can't recollect the actual dates, like February 20-something, 25th or so. Brad would know.
Okay, I don't have Brad on board to advise me, but
Before you sign.
with that correction, we'll make the correction of date, and what I would ask, subject to that date a week later, would be authorization on the part of the board for the mayor to.
Craig, do you know what happened at the meeting today? Did the
Yes,
DOT sign off?
No. No, they still have, they want to be included in the bond, Janet. So we're gonna have to redo the contract with Kubricki, including DOT, because they don't, if the village says it's okay, but the DOT says it's not okay, they want to have the power to say Kubricki fix it. So back in Ivan's hands.
Well, Kubricki's, obviously, they're the ones who have to provide the bond. Are they okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
So I think there's two options. You get two bonds, or it's just add DOT to the bond. So the decision was made to add DOT to the bond.
Yeah, I was just saying, my concern is making sure that we're on track to get the DOT approvals and the easements we need.
Yeah, but that was one of the holdups today.
Which was, Peter?
The DOT being added onto the bond.
Okay.
So it's all moving. It's just they have to be pushed along, and Ivan needs to stay on it.
Yeah, those are my concerns with giving the notice to proceed, and still knowing that we're beholding to the DOT, or they're
yeah. I know, but Kubricki needs us to sign the notice to proceed. So we told them that Craig would sign it tonight.
okay. Well, as long as you are comfortable that the DOT is going to, give the permit.
They just want every control over everything. They also need to know, like, after the job's completed, they want no responsibility for the street. So anyway, they want a contract to that effect, basically. I don't know when, but that's part of the deal.
Well, when you say they want no responsibility for the street, it's a state highway. Are they not going to continue to plow it and maintain it?
Yeah, they plow it, but like Brad said, so if Brad's snowplow hits a curb and breaks the curb, the village is gonna fix it. But DOT, if the DOT snowplow hits the curb, the DOT wants the village to fix it. But Brad's like, no, the DOT is gonna fix it if the village, DOT caused the problem, you know.
Yeah, 'cause I'm thinking of the drainage problem that we had on Main Street where they put in the storm sewer and culverts that collapsed. And, you know, they finally did fix them, but they're not saying that in the future they wouldn't be responsible for anything like that.
Yeah, but everything's gonna be new. And cleaning the catch basins, that's the village's responsibility. And other than that, there's not much to maintain besides the catch basins being cleaned. So there's some kind of, Brad's gonna talk to somebody in E-Town who represents DOT and hash this out. He doesn't think it's our responsibility if DOT hits a curb and breaks the curb. It should be their responsibility, not the village's, which.
Well, I agree. They do something that, you know, removes, you know, one of those grates for the storm sewer.
Right.
You know, like the problems that were on Mill Hill where the metal piece of the storm sewer that fit into the curb, they all cracked and broke or whatever they did. I mean, that's, in my opinion, state problem.
Yeah, and they want all their power, but all the responsibility placed upon the village. That's.
Don't we all?
Yeah, if they can get away with it. Anyway, Brad can fill you in on all that a lot better, Janet.
Okay, just as long as the village board knows that that's going to be a condition of the DOT to get the permit.
Yeah, and also like they haven't given us a permit, but the catch basins, all the structures have to have the DOT permit on it, and we can't order them until, because DOT has to review them and approve of them, but we can't even order them until we have the permit number. So it's catch-22 there as well. But Brad and Ivan think it's moving along. It's just they're being very bureaucratic, shockingly.
Sounds like it. Okay. I just think the board ought to know that's where we are.
Yeah.
So, question then, Janet, given this discussion, would it be advisable for us to table this temporarily until we have a clear path? Because if the DOT can do that, it seems to me we need to get them to get us to a point where we can give our contractor assurances that they can proceed once we sign this letter.
Well, it doesn't sound like there's any doubt that we're going to get a permit. The question is just what are going to be the conditions of the permit and whether we have any.
That's exactly right.
And whether we have any negotiating power, I don't know.
Well, until we sign it, we have some.
Should we at least see how much we do before we move forward on
Do
this?
Well, I'm going to say that I don't know. I mean, do you think, Peter, today was the final meeting? And if we cross those T's and dot those I's, the permit will issue, or is there more outstanding?
I don't know the answer to that, Jenna. Again, Ivan and Brad would be better to speak to them.
I do
I would
agree.
feel comfortable waiting, I guess.
Ricky, when I was there, they asked when is this notice to proceed is going to be signed. They want it signed. Because, they got a lot on the line as well.
So we've all got a lot invested in this project at this point, and but we also want to be very clear about the path going forward.
Maybe Janet and Craig, you should both speak to Ivan tomorrow and get his time.
I would be perfectly happy to call a special meeting to address this if in fact we could be a little better assured of the of DOT's position on this stuff. They want it signed, but they're still holding up. I think we should have a clearer understanding with them as going forward here than that.
I mean, I don't have any doubt that we will get a permit. Like I said, I think it's just what will be the conditions.
Well, it's either that or we're going to hand Main Street over to the state of New York and let them deal with it.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is they're not responsible for the infrastructure that's under the street. We are, and there's no question about that. And they should be held responsible for the surface of the street because it's a state highway. They don't maintain our sidewalks. We do. So I don't know how big a change what they're now talking about really is, if they're going to continue to plow, patch holes, that kind of thing. We know for sure they're not responsible for our stormwater system, our water system, or our sanitary sewer system. But I just don't understand yet if they're trying just to memorialize all of that, or if they're trying to shed or shift responsibility, that the way things are now, trying to make a shift in that responsibility. What do you think, Peter?
I think that's been their MO all along, is shifting as much responsibility to the village as possible. That's why they didn't want the bioretention in the pipes, because they didn't want to have to clean them. So this is one of many that we had to change in the proposal
Well,
for.
And I don't disagree that they have never cleaned our vortex units, or they wouldn't be doing our new bioretention, but at least I'd like to know that they're going to continue to plow and patch and paint the lines and do all of that they have been doing.
Let's get Brad to make this agreement, try to get this agreement done between DOT and the village, and we'll call a special meeting.
Yeah, I think if we could just get clarification, that would be, then just so that you all are making an informed decision here.
Yeah.
And I have no doubt the permit will be issued, the project will be going forward.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, the only two things I'm sure of is that the state wants to shift responsibility and that Kubricki wants this signed. All the important sort of details seem to be not out there, so I rather wait personally.
Okay. Really, you guys should speak to Brad and Ivan, and Craig and Janet.
We can always get that clarification and then call a special board meeting to address this issue.
Okay.
If we would, I want everybody to feel comfortable with what we're doing here, and if there's ambiguity in the position, then we should clarify it.
Hey, Craig, you want me to call Brad and have him log into our meeting here? Would
I
that
think
be
that would
helpful?
be a good idea.
Yeah.
You'd have to send Brad the link.
Yeah, I can.
I even with that being said, Mayor, even if Brad was, there seems to be a list longer than 2 or 3 that may need to have like an extended conversation. So I don't know if it would resolve the confusion this evening. Seems like something that should be sat down and talked about.
You're talking about DOT.
I could be here all night. I'm happy to be, but I'm just thinking that it might be better tomorrow.
We're going to see if we can get Brad to sign in and shed some additional light on this discussion. In the event that we can't, then I certainly would prefer, for the benefit of the board, to take the time to do an extra meeting to get this to a point where we're not uncertain about any issues. There'll be enough issues as it is without entering into the process at this point in that manner. I do know from conversations I have with DOT that there's many different, as with the village, there's multiple departments that weigh in. And it was made clear to me that it isn't one office that makes all the decisions, that there are multiple offices of DOT that engage, and then they bring all of those questions and opinions together and ultimately try to seek an agreement that will address what the village is seeking and allow it to go forward. But, so there's probably 16 or 18 different people that are contributing to what will be a final work permit with DOT. That's my understanding. We've seen several of them at the table in various meetings.
I mean, I will point out, we do have a signed contract, so this is going to go forward.
That's right.
Okay, I understand. All right, thank you. All right, guys, I just talked to Brad. He is not by computer, so he can't log on. He said we should go ahead and sign the notice to proceed because if we don't get the work permit, the job's not happening anyway. So, you know what I'm saying?
Okay, well, that's a board decision. And,
Work permit is for Kubricki to start doing their work.
Calling on the phone, do you want to?
we can put Brad on. We can put Brad on the.
Brad? Hold on, let me try to get you on speaker. Sorry, I never do this. Do you want to talk to him?
That's funny. Usually there's a screen that comes up.
Just a second, Brad. Hold on, I'm trying to get you on speaker. I don't know, you just have to talk to him.
Brad, the issues here are the group would prefer to get clarification on these points that they've raised where they are trying to, and I think it's clarification, not so much something new, but talking about the continuation of plowing, that's a responsibility of the state. The question of if the state damages a curb, wanting to shift that to the village, if that's what they're trying to do, cause damage, then it should be their responsibility in any event. Well, we want, and we want the same thing at this point. Janet, what we're talking about here is DOT wants the same clarification that we do. As with respect. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to connect you. I'm going to have you dial in or have Anita dial you on your voice. Usually the board should hear this. Okay. We're going back to old-fashioned technology, which is a conference mode.
Hey, Brad.
Hello.
Can everybody hear Brad that's attending virtually?
Yes.
Okay, Brad, the issue here, and you just explained it to me in part, if you could repeat that for the benefit of the board, I think that would be helpful.
Okay. So, oh. Can everybody hear?
We can hear.
Okay. So what DOT wants is they want an agreement in place before they issue the highway work permit of who's responsible for what. And it mainly comes down to a lot of the drainage and the infiltration stuff we're using is not DOT spec. It's because it's saying up with infiltration basins and things like that. So anything in the right of way and the piping is not, it wasn't. We did change most of the piping, so it is DOT spec now. But what we're looking at is they want to know who's going to be responsible for the drainage, who's going to be responsible for the road surface, who's going to be responsible for the curbing and the sidewalk. We've already talked with them. They are willing to take the road surface and we believe the curbing from curb to curb and all the road surface. They will not take, it sounds like they will not take the and they will not take the sidewalk because it's not a DOT spec that we're using for the sidewalk either. So they just want that in writing. And they sent us a draft agreement today that they've used in other municipalities. They want us to change it so that it fits us and just submit it with our next package to DOT so they can look at it down there. They'd like to get that first so we can get that out of the way because mainly most of the stuff with this is going to be worked out between myself and George Landry and now because he's the one that raised the question. He did have he was trying to get out of the curbing because of the bump out, but we're not going to let them out of the curbing. Plow up and down the road more than we do. So if anything's damaged by a plow, more than likely it's going to be their plow. And he understands that. I believe that that's not going to be an issue. The issue is that we just have to have it in writing. So it's not really anything that's gonna hinder anything with us notice to proceed or anything like that. It's gonna be one of the stipulations of the highway work permit before we proceed.
Janet, are you catching all of that?
I am. So Brad, it's just memorializing what we currently do and what they currently do and who's responsible. Is that correct?
It might not be the same people that are always here now, myself and the board that's now. You could get a board later on that says, this is all within the right of way, none of it's our problem, you deal with it, and it's falling apart, and they just don't want that to happen. Because this is our project, and it is going forward, it's gonna be on us to maintain most of it besides the road surface. And Ivan and I believe they should be liable for the curbing. Even though we know it now, if the curbing broke up there now, we end up fixing it. Because there's no agreement with that.
Well, I think it seems to me that that's a responsible way to approach it, and memorializing the responsibility is I certainly feel that I could support that without question.
I think if it's a memorialization and not a shift, that's just what we wanted to verify.
Yes. Yes, and then going forward, everybody will know where they stand with what they have to do up on Main Street. I don't think anything will change. We'll still be in the same agreements for snow removal. We'll still be in the same agreements for everything else. It's just going to be who is responsible for these in the future for maintenance of these certain items. And mainly, the main thing that they're worried about is the drainage. Because if the state was going down through there, all they would do is they would put in a bunch of big catch basins and run pipes directly into the lake. That's what they don't really maintain it. They don't really have the means to maintain any of these retention basins that infiltrate into the ground. And that's where the main point of this is.
Aside from the water main, the next biggest objective we're trying to solve is the Mirror Lake environmental issues.
Yes, correct. So I believe that they're, I don't think it's going to be anything that's going to be real difficult. I mean, we had some conversations at our last meeting was at the conference center, Craig, when we were all talking about this same issue.
I remember.
So it's just clarifying it instead of basically what's going on now. They want in writing because we take care of everything now. This might even be to our benefit eventually down the road.
Well, that's good to know. That's good, you know, and you know, the example that comes to my mind, Brad, is remember when there was that issue down by the Wilkins building on Main Street? And that was something that the state put in and you had to well, I don't know how to say this. You had to, you know, convince them that that was their problem, but this would take care of that. Is that correct?
Yes, and finally we ended up pushing it on them because it was their problem. That's what this is going to clarify instead of them, because I mean, everybody in the village, the first people they contact is the village. And this will clarify that with them so that they can pull this agreement out and say, okay, yeah, that is our responsibility. And we'll know who is supposed to fix that certain item.
Okay.
Okay, any further questions on or comments that the board wishes to make?
Yeah. Brad, do you remember the date that was selected now for the pre-construction meeting? Because it's in the contract and it's in the notice to proceed. But it's incorrect.
You mean the date that they set out today?
Yeah,
I believe it was February 25th. Wanted to have a construction meeting on February 25th, the pre-con meeting. But they just need enough time because once we sign the notice to proceed, they're going to sit down in their office and they're going to do the whole construction schedule out the way that they would like to lay this out so that we can get it in plenty of time to react to it. To say, yeah, no, we don't really want to start there. We don't want to, obviously they're going to do the drainage and the water line first. We want to get their ideas on this because they're the contractor and they do this so often. They're going to be the ones that really know what's the most efficient way to do it. The way they sounded today after the meeting, I spoke with a couple of them. They said they're going to have 2 crews going. That way, that alleviates the problem of having more than 2 inspectors having to be on the site. But that's the only reason they want to get this done is so that with the notice proceed, they can go ahead and start putting a construction schedule together for the 25th of February.
I do have a question. Does Kubricki have a problem with us not having state permits for us to give you the okay to proceed?
No, they're not. They're comfortable with everything. The big thing now, actually, they're doing some work on their end because we might have to change some of the things to get the bonding right because Kubricki has the whole project bonded, but the person that's in control of the bond is the village of Lake Placid. We're the only ones that can release them from the bond, and the DOT wants to be on there also with us as a co-applicant, so that it takes the village and the DOT to release the bond. So they're working on how they're going to handle that. They're going to find out whether it's easier just to issue them on it's like a perm 44 on the permit, and just issue it that way. But it seems like that's going to be more expensive than just redoing some of the paperwork. But Kubricki's office is going to let us know in the next few days what's the most easiest way to go about this part. But as far as Kubricki goes, they have no issues with anything with us. They're pretty easy going with it. They don't feel there's going to be any issues with the state.
Okay, well, they're already working for the state on both sides of the village.
Well, that's what I think. That's why having the contractor that works for the state a lot, and that puts the state at ease also. So it's not somebody they're unfamiliar with, and they're a bunch of contracts with these people
I sense that the project is okay. What DOT is requesting is as a memorialization and clarification of respective roles and responsibilities. That is not an unreasonable position, and I do agree that in the long term may actually put the village in a better position than we are today. At least we know what we do and what they do.
Yes, correct.
Any other points from the trustees? Janet, do you feel that we're able to proceed with this notice on that basis?
Well, Brad seems to have clarified that it's just a memorialization, which I thought it was, as long as it's not a shift. And the point is, if we don't get the permit, the project isn't going anywhere. So I think with Brad's level of comfort, we should be comfortable.
So I guess the only thing that's in sort of quote unquote discussion phase is responsibility of damaged curbing. Brad, is that what I understand it to be?
That's one of the things. What they did was, is because of the bump out all up and down Main Street, one of their resident engineers made the comment that he would like to because what happened? He goes, "Well, who's going to fix it if somebody hits it?" And my comment to them at the last meeting that Craig and I were at the conference center, I said, "Well, it will probably be the one that fixes it is probably the one that hit it. So if my plow truck or my loader hits it, I will fix it. If yours does it, that should be on you to fix it." And he's like looked at me like, "Yeah, you're probably right." I mean, I'm not going to have a state plow truck go down and smash something and then say, "Oh yeah, it's on us," because even if it's ours, I mean, even if say one of the drainage structures is ours and they rip it out with their loader up there for some reason, that's still on them. That's
Okay.
that would still be something that they're responsible for. That's
Okay.
But I don't see any issues up there. I mean, the big issue is just making them comfortable with things that DOT has a book of standard specs, and a lot of this stuff is not in their standard specs, and they're just uncomfortable. Their engineers in Albany are just uncomfortable agreeing with it without us saying that we will maintain those things that are not in their specs.
That's reasonable. Okay.
Any other trustee wish to comment or speak or have a concern? If not, and based on there seemingly to be understanding as to why we would proceed with this documents this evening, can we have a motion to authorize the village and mayor to enter into these documents and execute them? Recognizing that, as has been stated, that this project doesn't move until a work permit is issued in any event.
So moved.
Second.
Bart? Peter?
Yep.
Okay, it's a big, we're moving forward with a fairly significant project here. So is there any other trustee that wishes to speak before we call this motion? If not, we'll call a motion, and I'll ask for each one of you that as you vote to just put your hand up so we can see who's voting. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand.
Now say aye.
Aye.
All those who oppose, please so note. Same form. Any abstentions? In that case, the ayes have it, and the motion passes. We'll proceed to execute these documents.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you, Brad, for your
Yeah,
assistance.
thank you.
Have a good night.
I'll be right back.
Okay, well, this is interesting. The next item on the agenda is the agreement between the village and the county of Essex. It's an agreement for maintenance of county roads. This agreement, I believe, has been executed in the past, and it's a fairly routine document. And based on my understanding of it, the Appendix A describes the services that are anticipated that the village would provide to the county with, and any corrections that we might be making. And the Appendix B covers the agreement, which is most important, that the county agrees to compensate the village based upon actual costs of the village to provide and perform the services and work that is authorized under Appendix A. Shall be made only after submission by the village to the county superintendent of public works of an itemized bill and properly completed county voucher, approval thereof by both the county superintendent and county auditor. So it's pretty straightforward. That we probably should have kept Brad on. He could have done a lot more of this. But all of the requirements of any agreement we enter into with the county are attached to this as appendixes.
Craig, where do we have county roads in the village?
Whiteface Inn Road, Old Military.
Well,
Those are-
Whiteface Road is an old military. There's only pieces of old military that are in the village. For example, the portion that is near the elementary school. There may be a portion near the firehouse where half of the road is village and half of it would be town. Those types of situations. The reality is we do not have a lot of county roads, but in order for the village to participate in maintaining those for the public's benefit, this is the agreement that allows us, obligates the county to compensate the village for the maintenance work that we do. I don't think there's a lot of it, but I will say that on occasion we have accommodated the county because of the equipment that we have and manpower sometimes, and it may reach out to county roads that go beyond the village boundary itself. I think if Brad were here, he could outline those.
Yep, that's fine. I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Second.
Who was second? Peter?
No,
Scott.
Scott. Any further discussion on this? If not, I'll call a motion. All in favor? Again, raise your hand and say
Aye.
aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that passes. The next item we have is a request from our electric department. It is recommending and requesting that we authorize the purchase of what will be a portable generator. It will be used in situations where properties lose power, and I can certainly testify to that. I've had this situation last winter, and where if they had this piece of equipment, they could actually power the property until such time as the repairs could be made. This is a smaller generator that will be portable. It'll be on a trailer. The funding for this was just under $49,850. Will come from funds that are held in the IEEP fund or Independent Energy Efficiency Program funds, which have sufficient funding available in it to cover the cost of this at the present time.
So moved.
Second.
Further questions or comments on it? I'm actually surprised that the department has not had such a resource in the past, but there are opportunities for the use of this type of equipment, and they've not had it. And properties have otherwise had to wait for physical repairs to be made at times. And it happened to my property last winter when it was 26 below zero at 3 o'clock in the morning. And it took them until 6:30 in the morning to make the physical corrections and get it back on, and those were only temporary. Whereas if they had this unit, they would have hooked it up immediately and not been out in the cold themselves for more hours than they needed to be. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next request we have is, this goes back to early last summer when the Ausable River Association and Brendan Wilsey and Elise Clark made a presentation to our board with respect to the program they were entering into, which they being the Ausable River Association, to continue to focus on research surrounding Mirror Lake and the issues of the lake in terms of fluoride concentrations. They outlined at that meeting a $600,000 program spread over 5 years, seeking funding initially in the amount of $220,000, with $175,000 of it come from a grant from the Lake Champlain Basin Program, with the matching funds of $45,000 to be raised from local government. At the time, I think they prorated it based upon the amount of Mirror Lake that is contained within the village, and then there's a portion within the town. And they were asking the village to consider providing $10,000 a year for the years 2020, 2021, and 2022. With the town, and they were approaching the town for $5,000 for each of those same years for that same program. That would provide the matching funds to produce the grant from the Lake Champlain Basin Program. In speaking with our treasurer, our budget has the funds available in it, and they can be used for that purpose. I think the community has indicated a strong desire to do everything we can to protect Mirror Lake, and certainly the drainage program on Main Street is one piece of it. The continued monitoring of the lake, and as we learned this fall, the lake does have other issues that come up from time to time, makes this a worthy investment for the village. I believe the letter that was endorsed by local residents and business people numbered some 200 signatures, if I remember correctly. So I do support it. I think the relationship that we're developing with our watershed groups, especially as it relates to Mirror Lake, has become an important relationship. But more than that, we're learning more about the environmental qualities of our lakes. And it's not only Mirror Lake, but I remind everybody that the topic is significant. Our primary water source is another lake called Lake Placid. So with that said, I do support, and we do have the funds budgeted and available such that we can enter into this arrangement with Ausable River, give them the resource that they need to continue the work that they're doing on the lake itself. I might add that Mirror Lake, Lake Placid, along with Lake George, appear to be two of the shining stars, if you would, that are getting a lot of attention with respect to the environmental qualities of watershed management.
Craig, in the past, when we've done donations like this, we couldn't make a direct donation. We had to have a service that we were getting. Does this qualify or meet that requirement?
That would constitute, and Mindy, you're welcome to jump in if you wish, but that does constitute a service to the community, and whatever steps we need to do to document that, we should be able to do it with no difficulty.
All right,
Yeah,
they're asking for $10,000 this year for the next 3 years. What did we do in the past, Mindy? Do you know?
in the past, I believe, we just went through and actually looked it up. We have an agreement that we've used in the past that makes it a community or village benefit contribution. So that would probably get submitted at the same time, and we can ask for something back from the Osable River Association stating that it was in fact a contribution for the community.
I'm just wondering, did we contribute 5,000 last year or 2,000? I don't recollect.
I think there's two things. There's the, remember there was the match that we had with them to match for the equipment that monitors the amount of salt that goes down in the live edge plow, right, Mindy? That was they got a grant and then
paid for that.
right. So
We
there was that.
Yeah, we got full reimbursement for that. They had a grant funding for that. So we've actually already been reimbursed for that portion.
Yeah, but didn't we have to do a match?
Yes.
Yes, so
did.
we did a match to get, so that they could get the grant that got us that new equipment. And then in addition, I think they've provided services such as monitoring the lake water. You know, they put in that new station that monitors everything and monitors the, well, you know, there was an algae bloom and the purple loosestrife and all of that. So those are the services that they provide that we are compensating them for.
But as far as a dollar amount, Peter, I don't know the flat dollar amount. I can look it up and get you the info though.
Historically, I think this is more than what we normally have contributed, but Mirror Lake is in a sort of a critical state, and it would behoove us to invest slightly more in order the next few years in order to mitigate some of the issues.
And I think to some degree, Jason, further on your comments, we're fairly accustomed to smaller projects that have been undertaken by the Mirror Lake Watershed Association. I think the Osable River Association, in large part, has the capacity, and obviously you're seeing that in the size of this project over a period of 5 years, to take on projects such as this that Mirror Lake does not have the immediate personnel for. So even Mirror Lake Watershed is beginning to work, from what I can see, in tandem with Osable River. So my suspicion is you're not going to see this type of request coming from Mirror Lake. I think this replaces what they've done in the past. And granted, it is a larger undertaking.
And are they asking for the funding for this year or to make a commitment for 3 years of funding is another question.
We're asking for a commitment for each of 3 years. Obviously, I can only commit the village, given my term of office, to the current year 2020, but and it'll be up to future boards as to where they go from there.
Well, I question that too, but I would think we actually can commit the board since we're doing the same thing with the Main Street project, but that's just a guess.
I would agree, Art. I understand where the mayor is avoiding wanting to hamstring future boards with decisions that this board made, but I would think in this particular instance, it's a smaller investment, but it's going to have significant impacts on the health of Mirror Lake.
Yeah, if that were to be the case, I would think we would probably want to see some kind of written agreement from Osable to support that. And at that point, I wouldn't have a problem if we have a contract. It's clearly a commitment for 3 years. That's one thing. But if we're going year by year on this program, and again, the sense would be that a agreement documenting a 3-year commitment here would be the appropriate mechanism that we would want to use.
Craig, I'd like to just do 1 year. Brendan Wilsey isn't with them anymore, and he was always our guy. You know, who knows who's going to represent us now? I'm sure there's somebody.
Well,
maybe we table it and maybe flesh out the agreement a little bit more, and then kind of to Peter's point, have them identify who our sort of the intermediary is going to be now that Brendan's not there. Would that be
I
more
think
difficult than just approving it for 1 year?
I think Brendan is not working full-time for them. He's teaching at Paul Smith's, but he is still doing work for them. But you can flesh that out, but that's my understanding. He didn't leave them.
I could support tabling it for the purpose of getting a document that would memorialize what we're doing here. I do think that a 3-year agreement, given the underlying funding that they're receiving from Lake Champlain Basin, would they may have to have a 3-year agreement to get that.
Okay. Would you? So,
If you wish, I'd be happy to entertain a motion to table this for those purposes, or back for the agreement that would document what we're doing.
so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll work in that direction. Moving on, we have a request from the water department to send Carol Macy. This is a virtual online program. There's 2 different sessions, one on February 9th to 11th, another February 16th to 18th. It's the annual meeting of the American Water Works Association. This year attendance will be virtual, it'll be online. And this attendance for Carol is required to keep her license as a water operator current. And she needs a certain amount of hours of continuing education for that to happen. So you have a copy of the request in your packet. I would ask for a motion authorizing that. It's clearly necessary.
So moved.
Second.
On favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Okay, the motion passes. The next item is a resolution that's being requested by the board. I'm going to ask Nita to describe its purpose. She has jurisdiction over records.
So this is really just an administrative policy that we need to have a resolution saying that we will be following it. It has to do with how we keep our records and mostly for how long we keep our records. The state used to have 4 different schedules for different branches of government. Ours was the MU1. There was also the CO2, the MI1, and the ED1 for schools and prisons and any sort of state overseen agency. This is just saying that we will follow. So they took all 4 of those, they combined them into the LGS one, and that is what we are now going to be expected to follow. And although it sounds really complicated and convoluted, basically for day-to-day work, it won't change at all. I haven't seen any changes to how long we have to keep any specific records. So it's really just a administrative rubber stamp that we will be using this policy.
So moved.
Second.
Janet, resolutions, roll call vote, yay, no?
This didn't ask for one.
Okay.
Like if the state said just do this, they usually tell you if they want a roll call. I don't think it's required.
I don't think it's necessary.
In that case, then we have a motion and it's been seconded. If there's no further discussion, please note your vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, resolution passes. Item H, having to do with taxi license renewal, once again, as often happens this time of year, paperwork is not all in. We only have 1 taxi cab operator operating in the village. Thank goodness we have that. But I'm going to ask for a motion extending the time for submission and completion of the application to the end of January, which we've done before. Previous years when we've had to.
And the assistant police chief supports this. He's had no
Almost.
problems with this person.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, well, we can let Chuck know that that's what we're
Yep.
doing, and the operator, I guess.
Yes.
I'll also make a motion to accept the regular village board meetings and the workshop schedule for January through June.
Should we just stop them at April and then maybe revisit that? We don't want
They're going to happen no matter what.
to. I'll second.
Life has to go on beyond April, believe me.
Yeah, right.
But the-
Well, I was just thinking we don't want to hamstring future boards, really pegging them in on Mondays.
Once every quarter, right?
Right.
the good-
We can be like the town board.
good
Can always be
news is
changed.
Municipal law governs the frequency of our board meetings, so that part of it, we do a 6-month schedule mostly for the convenience of everybody, so they know to mark it on their calendar.
Sure.
And the work sessions generally follow on the Tuesday of the week following the week of the board meeting. So that's what sets these schedules. Occasionally, we have a exception for a holiday or something, but that doesn't appear to be an issue here. One note I did note, Anita, we might do, the April 5th meeting should probably be noted as a regular, as an annual organizational and regular meeting. It's an important meeting. Art, you made the motion. Jason, did you second that?
He did.
I did.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, our schedule's set. Next item, is there anything else needed?
Nope, not at all.
The clerk for this evening? Moving ahead to treasury items, and Mindy, anything that you want to comment on that before we address the warrant?
Just that I had sent out a collateralization email for our bank accounts earlier today, and they will be going out monthly going forward. I got a little bogged down with all the software upgrades, but you will have them on a monthly basis going forward. But if anyone has any questions, just to let me know. That's about it.
I did review them, Mindy, and in my opinion, they're all the collateral provided for public deposits in each of the banks that we're using is adequate. And I thought it was actually substantially higher than it needed to be. But I'm not representing the bank, so I'm not concerned.
I think the markets were up, and that's probably why they're as high as they are.
Could be.
I'll make a motion to approve the warrants. Thank you, Jason.
Second.
My pleasure.
Okay, thank you for doing that. The total of the warrant tonight is $825,428.93, just for the sake of the record. Okay, we have a motion and a second. If there's no further questions of the bills submitted tonight, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
And
we're
Jason
Mindy,
did
I
not
just
want to say so himself.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Anita. You could do it.
No, just Jason told me he really appreciated the revised visual of the warrant, the way it's put together.
A complete breakdown. It is night and day from the previous sort of structure that we had. Each individual bill, depending on it's differentiated by percentages in the bill. I'm like, there's so much detail in it.
It's the new software. It's amazing. It gives way more information. I mean, I printed out budget reports and sent them out to everybody for current to date. And we used to print out 80 pages for a budget report, and now it's 12. It gives percentages, it gives way more breakdown. I'm finding that with all the reports going forward in Encode. I mean, we've had some hiccups, which is, kind of set us back a little bit, but that's true of any new software. It just takes a little while to figure out where to go.
You're looking at the bills for a municipality for all the different departments and all the different things that are going on. And oftentimes you'd have to be an investigative reporter and look at a number and then go search through and it breaks it all down, and then you really can identify, oh, I'm gonna inquire about this, or oh, I remember this. It's fantastic. So
Yeah,
thank you.
we really like it.
Okay,
Sorry, I'm all done.
If not, we'll move on. I have no items of new business this evening, but does any of the other people present have anything they wish to bring up under new business? If not, we'll move to old business items that are on the agenda. Main Street reconstruction project, I think we're pretty much up to date on where we are on that. We had a pretty thorough discussion earlier. Land use code updates, steering committee, Art, anything additional there at the moment?
Right now, land code update and short-term rental update are really one and the same. And there's really been no change in what we're doing for the last 3 to 4 weeks. We're still just hammering out definitions and getting a group consensus on where we're going to make recommendations. And as far as the local government communication, at this point, there have been several pages that have been redone, brought up for village approval, and some of them have been approved and are now active, and especially in the case of the court justice system. And after speaking with Kate today, she says that look in early January and February, you'll see some much bigger changes. They've been basically getting the easy, low-hanging fruit. So things are progressing very nicely there.
Well, I certainly would express appreciation to the staff of the village who are working closely with Kate. And I think I completely agree with you that they seem to be, we're making, I think, we're opening the windows for some good changes that are, that will still remain within the capabilities of the village and its people, which is important to us. So all of it to try to get more and better information out to our community. Under mayor items this evening, there's a copy of a letter that you saw from New York Conference of Mayor to Senator Schumer and the New York congressional delegation that was seeking and encouraging the delegation to try to help out the cities and villages that are trying to survive in this pandemic period. It was a very supportive letter of Congress. Unfortunately, Congress acted, and they did not in the bill that was sent up to the president. They did not include any additional resources for local government, either city or village. So there was some disappointment expressed by the Conference of Mayors just this afternoon. But that's what life is in Vaseline and Washington these days. So I just offer that for information. In the way of information, we have 2 holidays coming up. We have Christmas on Friday and New Year's the following Friday. The town hall building will be closed starting at noon on the Thursdays previous to each of those holidays. So I just wanted to announce that the village offices will close at noon on Thursday of this week and Thursday of the following week, so that our building can be shut down. One other item I've got, which is developing. We received a notice, an inquiry from a TV production company that's looking to do some work in the area in February. That may include casting using some of the streets of Lake Placid and Mirror Lake. That is assuming that there's ice and dog sleds and toboggan runs and this sort of thing. We're working with Eric Granger and the town. Some of it's being shot in Saranac Lake, and about 20% of it maybe in the Lake Placid marketplace. We've asked for a little more information on this as to what it would involve. And Art, we will, with that information in hand, we will work with the business association, and I think we did refer this over to Ruth so that they had some awareness of it. But So more to come on that. Aside from that, in correspondence, you're seeing the annual report from the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets, just indicating that the procedures that we use when we have to recover animals in the village and the relationship we have with Lake Placid Animal Hospital meet all of the standards of the state, and we got a clean bill of health on that, which we're happy to have. And I think with that said, we've covered everything that I had on the agenda. Does anyone, do any of you as board members have any other items that you wish to bring up?
Craig, can we have an executive session speaking about the mid-main parking lot?
Janet, would you have the ability to engage in that discussion?
Yes. For contracts.
Well, that's what we're talking about in procedure. Before we do that, however, I would ask any other people who are attending this meeting virtually that wish to comment or raise a question to do so. If you would identify yourself so that we know who we're, I think we know everybody that's here, but almost everybody. There might be two that we don't. Elizabeth?
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, about the television company, can you say what company it is and what television show they want to shoot for?
Is there any issue with that, Anita, that you're aware
I
of?
don't think there's an issue with it. I believe it's a company that it would be connected to Bravo TV. And I believe the show is called Winter House. They did a show called Summer House in the Hamptons last summer. So I guess we're following in somewhat good footsteps, but beyond that, I can't say I know anything specific about the show or the production company. There were, like Craig indicated, there are a number of hands involved in this, us, the town, Orta, Roost, and that's the reason the production company, when they realized how many people are involved here, they hired Eric Granger to be a local go-between. So he would be the one who could answer any other questions at this time, or possibly MJ at Roost.
Okay.
There is some interesting opportunity beyond the current request, depending. But I think at this point, Eric Granger, who's well known to us and has handled a number of productions in the area, is the point person for the project going forward.
Okay. And what's the status of the police reform process?
That I reviewed a conversation today between the consultant and the village and the police department. We're preparing and the discussion really had to do in this day of virtual presentations, how we reach out to our community for community input. And that is being worked on, and I believe it's being scheduled for January. The date has not been yet fully agreed on, but that's moving forward.
Okay. And I imagine with the court closing again, there might be, well, there very likely is going to be a backup of cases when it reopens. Is it possible that more justices will need to be brought on when the court opens again? Has there been any discussion of how that might be handled?
If I were you, I would address that with either directly with the justices, which in our case would be Justice Corson, or with the Office of Court Administration, who drives all of the court activities in the region. I wish I could give you more information, but I don't have it.
Okay.
Obviously the court clerks, both court clerks are working, although they're working with no members of the public coming into the town hall. So it's the same operation that we were operating the courts under last spring when this first came up.
Right.
Liz, circling back to your first question, I just wanted to add that this production company has already given us evidence that they have very strict COVID protocols. I know that that would be many people's first question with bringing something like that to town right now. So they handled this during the pandemic last summer. They expect if they're allowed to continue, they can handle it here in the winter. But that was the first question that came up. So just so you know.
When have they asked for permission to shoot here?
First 2 weeks of February.
Okay, yeah. Craig says the first 2 weeks of February. I hadn't gotten that far into it with them.
Okay.
Kind of over to Roost and Eric.
It appears that they're focusing on activities in the area as part of the backdrop of their production. And as I said, some of a large part of it takes place in the Saranac Lake area, and then some of the outdoor activities take place in the Lake Placid and the Orta venue regions. That's what we know at this point.
And I know you guys are going to go into executive session to, I'm assuming, talk about something related to this, but is there any update on the upper municipal lot on Main Street across from NBT?
That is the topic of the executive session. Yes.
Is it still in the planning phase?
We're actually working on moving forward with how do I want to say it, negotiations. The boundaries of the site need some adjustment, and there's property owners involved with them.
Okay. That's all I had.
Okay. Anyone else? If not, gentlemen, I would ask for a motion to take.
Wait, yeah, I just want to say one thing.
Yes.
Sorry, this is Andy Flynn at the Lake Placid News.
Andy.
I just want to say on behalf of the Lake Placid News and the Adirondack Daily Enterprise, happy holidays. That's all I have.
Well, thank you very much. Since we're going into executive session, I had it on my notepad to also wish everybody, despite the conditions that we're all enjoying Christmas and New Year's under, a very happy, healthy, and safe Christmas and New Year's period.
And Mayor, I would feel remiss if I didn't mention that I also would like people to be happy and safe, and I would encourage them to be so happy and so safe that we can ensure that our schools open after a holiday break and we can stay open. So it's going to take everybody's help, the whole community's help, to make that happen. So I highly encourage you to be happy and safe, so safe that we can open the schools back again when we come back.
For your fellow trustees and the mayor and everyone else around here that we endorse that wholeheartedly. We definitely want to keep our school doors open, and we congratulate the schools on the excellent performance that they've had so far. I know we've had an occasional case, but overall, I think the effort has been nothing short of outstanding.
I would not only I would say the school, but the students themselves are owed a lot of credit. They've sacrificed quite a bit under some unusual circumstances, eating lunch in their own classroom, wearing masks all day, having to wash their hands frequently, having specials come to their classrooms. In the middle high schools, teachers moving classrooms and students staying. So it's an unusual year, and they're sacrificing, and I'm hoping that our community can be happy and safe and sacrifice just a little bit, just like our students do, so we can open the doors back up.
And I would just like to input, as a parent of an elementary school teacher, how phenomenal the school has done this year. It's amazing how well they have maintained, kept us informed, and just taking care of our kids. It's nice to be able to send your kid to school during a pandemic and not have to worry about them. I appreciate everything the school's done, and the village as a whole.
For the benefit of Liz and Andy, who represent the press here tonight, I think you get a sense of how important, not that you don't already know it, that the school system is to our success going forward despite the pandemic. So
Right.
congratulations to everyone that's made it work so far. Okay, with that said, I'd ask for a motion to take the board into executive session.
All moved.
Art, is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're in executive session.
Merry Christmas, everybody. See you later.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Cute cat, Scott.